Hi everyone, welcome to my channel, the Noi channel. So today's video is going to be about Monster, the Ed Gein Story. This is the third installment in the Monster series. The first season was about Jeffrey Dahmer and came out in 2022. So I remember when it came out, it was quite controversial. Some people watched it for the gore and horror aspect. Some people just wanted to understand the motives behind the monster. And some people got really angry because the victims' families weren't consulted when they were making this show, and they didn't want this man to be humanized. And I'm firmly in this group. I couldn't even make it through the first half of the first episode. I know that right now there's this shift in society, and all the gully pops love true crime and documentaries. But let me tell you something, I'm old school. The true crime documentaries of my childhood was Medical Detectives, and I lived for that show. Tell us how the murderer was caught and the science that went into investigating the horrors they committed. Don't just show us the murder and make my blood boil at police incompetence. So I guess you could say I was not a fan. When I started watching the Ed Gein season, I didn't even know it was the third season of this monster series. It does make sense though. And when I started watching it, I found it gripping. Most importantly, I was a huge fan of Sons of Anarchy, and I wanted to support Charlie Hunnam since it's very clear he worked very hard on this character, Ed Gein. And I also like the actress that played his mother. Great actress. So I did not know the story of Ed Gein before I started watching, and maybe that's the best way to approach this. I'm not a fan of the horror genre, and I didn't watch Psycho or any of the movies inspired by the story of him. Even if someone told me this man kills people and uses their skin and skulls as household items and takes bodies out of the graveyard, I I would have been noping my way out of there. So I kept watching, thinking maybe there's a story in here beyond the obscene violence of it all. Episode 4 is when I finally threw in the towel, titled Green. This episode is about this lonely old lady named Bernice Warden. So she was dating a married man that promised he was going to leave his wife for her, but when the wife learned of the affair, she drinks bleach and kills herself. Anyways, I know she's a bad person for having this affair, but she's still a victim of it. And she just strikes me as lonely and someone that wants to be in love. So the episode starts with Ed embalming the babysitter, and his fiancée Adeline goes to check on his mother and discovers that it's just a cop sitting in the chair. So she runs home, but her family is not there. Ed chases her and gets into the house, but he doesn't kill her. Instead, they have an honest conversation about the dead body, and this is so weird. Like, she asks him what it's like to touch dead flesh and stuff. She even says it's fascinating and it doesn't disgust her what he's doing. And the show is very confusing. One moment we're with Ed, then it's the screenplay based on Ed's story. There'll be a gruesome killing scene in the shower, and then you cut to the audience reaction because what we just saw was part of the movie that Hitchcock is making. And how can you get invested in what's happening when any moment they're just going to do a rug pull? But back to the story, Ed goes into the hunting store. I'm not sure if it's a gun store. I don't know. This is where he sees Bernice crying. Bernice is the old lady. He asks how she's doing. She says he's so kind and he's the only one that's nice to her. So she's on some kind of medication that's making her lose weight, but it's also making her a bit unstable. She's also nervous all the time. Ed takes her for supper and she gives him a bra under the table. And I still feel sorry for her. You can tell she's a bit of a mess. I don't know why, but horrors and thrillers love sex scenes, and I don't think the two should go hand in hand together. Like, just because a show is rated M or R or whatever for violence, it doesn't mean, okay, let's get as explicit as possible with everything. There was no need to have a sex scene with Bernice and Ed, and I found myself skipping past the entire thing. Towards the end of the episode, he goes full incel mode, accusing her of seducing innocent, God-fearing, devoted son, Ed Gein, and that just so happens to be a creepy freak. This episode upset me so much I even questioned why I'm watching this. I've been stuck on this episode for 4 days watching a scene and having to pause it and do something else, and coming back to the show. It makes me wonder why I'm even putting myself through this, and then eventually I just gave up on trying. So, yes, the acting was on point, the music, direction, everything was top notch. But my problem is the story itself. And something else I didn't know at the time, the Menendez brothers was a part of this monster series, and it was the second installment. And I watched the entire season of that show and had so much sympathy for the boys. Their story is not at all like the other monsters covered, which is Jeffrey Dahmer and Ed Gein. Anyways, I'm going back to my nice, safe K dramas for now. Let me know what you thought of the monster series in the comments, and be sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel. Bye.